Hi, today I am with author Deena Adams, and she is going to share her debut novel with us today. And Deena, welcome to Between the Lines. I'm so glad you could visit with us today.
Hi. Thank you, Jennifer. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
It's funny, Deena had me on her podcast. Gosh, I think it was like 3 years ago, and neither one of us actually remembered.
I
I had to go back and look today. But you were,
know. I said I remember interviewing you, but I don't remember anything about it.
I know it's funny. We talked a lot about how we both tend to write the same types of books,
Mm,
using the hard stuff in life to write our books. And so Deena is now out with her debut novel, Stronger Than the Storm, and it comes out on the 28th. Is that correct?
yes, April 28th.
Okay, and this podcast is airing on the 23rd.
Okay.
So you will hit it really hard when we publish this podcast. So Deena, tell us about you, about your life, whatever you want to share. Let's just start with that.
Okay. Well, I grew up in Northwest Georgia and met my husband there when I was 13 years old.
Oh, really?
Yes, so we started dating then. We dated through high school, broke up in our junior year, and then got back together after graduation when he joined the Navy. And we ended up getting married with 2 week notice. And so we traveled around the country with the Navy for 20 years, had 3 children, and then we settled here where we are still in Chesapeake, Virginia. And 2 years before my husband's Navy retirement, we planted a church, and he still pastors that church today. So that's been about 27 years, a little more than 27 years ago. We planted the church, and we have 7 grandkids now. And 2 of our kids and 5 of our grandkids live right near us.
Nice.
Our oldest daughter and her family live in the Dallas Fort Worth area. So we only get to see them once or twice a year. So, yeah, so that's a little bit about my background. I kind of just was a Navy wife and mom and stayed home most of the time. I didn't go to college, get any kind of creative writing degree or anything else, just living life and learning through hard knocks, I guess.
So what inspired you then to write a book?
Well, I've always been interested in writing. Even I say my grandmother wanted to be a published author. She used to write and send in stories through the mail and try to get them published. My mom wanted to be a published author until she found out about all the editing that was involved. And she said, forget that. And so then I don't know, I've always been interested in it, and English and literature and grammar and all those things were always a big interest for me. And over the years, I've written various things like poems and songs and newsletters for our church or devotions for the church. And I've journaled a lot, just things like that. But I never really considered writing a novel until 2018. We had gone through a really difficult relationship breakup with our best friends who are also ministry partners in our church plant. And that was devastating. It was like a death, really, a grieving process to grieve that broken relationship. And so for 2 years, I really struggled with depression and like I didn't figure out how to move on from it. And so I ended up going to counseling, and the counselor encouraged me through our sessions that we had to find something for me that I would enjoy doing that would try to like take my mind off of what had happened and give me something joyful to focus on. And so I prayed about it and started looking into different things. And I just thought, well, writing, I've always enjoyed it. Maybe I should do something with that. And so I started searching online for different things. And I took a little online quiz to learn maybe what I want to write. I didn't know if it was nonfiction or fiction or music or whatever. So anyway, I finally landed on writing fiction and dove right in and started with NaNoWriMo. For people who don't
Yeah.
know what that is, it's National Novel Writing Month, where you write 50,000 words in a month.
Which is the worst possible month to
I
have
know,
that
right?
because it's in
Right?
November.
I know, with the holidays coming,
It's
but
horrible.
I dove into it not knowing what I was doing, and I wrote 50,000 words in 3 weeks.
Wow.
And then at the end of 4 months, I had a 120,000 word mess. And I had the bug, I was like, oh, this is so fun. I love this. And I went to my first conference in 2019 and started pitching. I saw an agent there who asked for a proposal, and I'm like, what's that? And like, I didn't know anything about writing or the writing world, but I jumped in with both feet, and I've been drinking from a fire hydrant ever since.
I'll bet. Yeah, that's a lot. And 2019 really isn't that long ago when you consider I started this journey back in 2008.
Hmm.
um, I had a little more time to kind of absorb it a little at a time instead of hitting you all at once. And you have
Mhm.
been in the writing world, you've been doing blogs and you've been interviewing authors and you've done all those things before you even wrote your book. Explain what inspired that because that's I think that's unusual. I don't think most wannabe authors or future authors are delving into that commitment of support before they actually write a word.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is my type A personality, and I've always been a doer. And when I decide I'm going to do something, I go all in. And it doesn't matter what it is. Like even with my faith, when I became a Christ follower, it's like I'm all in, and just my whole entire life changed. I just really just pour myself into everything. So in 2018, when I wrote this book and said, okay, now what do I do? I was searching online and reading every article, blog post, YouTube video, whatever I could get my hands on. And I started learning through that what it takes to actually get published. And when I learned I had to have a website, I needed to build a newsletter follower list and get people, signed up for my newsletter and build platform and all those things. I did that. I mean, I started in 2018 with that book. And by February 1st, I think, of 2019, I had a website and I was blogging on that website. At first, I started out doing just blog posts about various daily things. I would find something random and make a spiritual lesson out of it, and blog about it, trying to get followers, on my newsletter list. And as I got more into it, I started realizing, okay, just because somebody is subscribing and reading a blog post about God and spiritual things doesn't mean they read fiction or that they're going to follow my fiction journey and want to buy my book one day. So, if the goal of this is to be a published author and sell books and make a ministry out of that, then I need to try to reach readers who want fiction. So I went through a process of kind of evolving from that original blog format to interviewing other authors because I thought, okay, what would readers of fiction be interested in on a blog? Well, they're interested in books. So what better could I do than to put authors on my blog and talk about their books? So that's kind of how I went into that. And I thought when I started that, I think I made that transition in the end of 2019, I think is when I started to do the interviews. And I thought, well, okay, maybe I'll get one a month or something because nobody knows me.
Right.
I don't really know anybody else much at this point. And so I just kind of put a shout out on social media and like reader groups that I was in. Hey, I'm starting to blog and share authors. Does anybody want to do an interview on my blog? And before I knew it, I had every week filled for several months. And I was like, okay, then. Like, this
Yeah,
was
so
not what I thought.
well, I think authors, especially, it's hard to get some traction.
Mm-hmm.
People are desperate for somebody to notice them. I mean, I started the podcast 4 years ago. I put it out there too, thinking, I'm not going to be able to fill up. I'm not going to be able to fill it
Mm-hmm.
up. And every time I put one out, I've got months filled where I have to tell people,
Mm-hmm.
I can do your podcast, but it's going to be 5 months down the road before I can act.
Yeah. Yeah, I was amazed at, I'm like, these people don't know me from Adam, and like they're willing, do they know that I don't know what I'm doing? So yeah,
Apparently not.
it's been a
Apparently
huge
not.
learning curve, but it's been so much fun, and I've got to meet so many
That's right.
authors, and I love promoting other people and their work, and so it's been a win-win really all the way around. And I never went into that thinking, oh, one day they're gonna, return the favor. I never had that thought when I was doing it, going into it. But it is connections, it is networking, and you do meet
Water.
people.
Yeah.
And the Christian writing community is a beautiful thing. And it's a small in the scope of the world, it's like a small thing, a community, and where everybody knows everybody and that kind of thing. So I have made a lot of good connections, and so it's been a blessing all the way around.
Where have you been to different conferences? You said you had gone to some conferences, and you're in like. Do you go to the Blue Ridge Christian Writers Conference?
Yes, Blue Ridge is the first conference I went to in 2019, and I fell in love with it. It was so um, wonderful to meet people that were like family, like they didn't know me, but everybody that I talked to just embraced me and welcomed me in. And, you make lifelong friends, and they were so kind, and I'd say, well, what about that? And I don't know this. I mean, the first dinner I sat at Lisa Carter's table, and she was just so kind and helpful, and pointing me in the right direction. I'm like, I don't know what to say if I meet with an agent. Like, do I even want to do that? I'm not ready. She said, just tell them that. Just say, hey, I'm brand new. This is what I've done. What do you recommend I do next? And just get their advice. And now I go to Lisa Carter's writing retreat in Lake Gaston, North Carolina every year.
Oh,
And
nice.
so I made that connection there with her. And I'm going back to Blue Ridge this year. I've been, I think, two other times since I first went to Blue Ridge. I love it. This year they're celebrating their 50th anniversary, so that'll be fun. And I've also gone to the ACFW, American Christian Fiction Writers, their national conference. I've been to that twice in St. Louis. And I did an online one year when I was the first time I was a Genesis finalist. It was COVID time frame. So
Whoa.
2021, they didn't have the in person. And so I went to Franklin, Tennessee to something that another author had put together for people to come together and watch that together. I thought, well, I want to be with other writers if by some chance I won, which I didn't that year, but I wanted to be around people who understood what that meant, you know.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but yeah,
you were in
and
my neighborhood. We have so many in common things that we were talking about before we started recording, but I was up for Genesis in 2015 and it was in St.
mm,
Louis and I went. But then you're in Franklin and we're like in 45 minutes from Franklin, so you were in our
uh,
neighborhood and she was just
yeah,
pointing out that I had written Trainwrecked Hearts, part of that set in Rossville, Georgia, where she grew up, and nobody knows where Rossville, Georgia
I
is.
know.
And there it is. And then she
Yeah,
lived on Treasure Island between Alameda and San Francisco for a time, which is where I lived, not on Treasure
yeah,
Island, but I lived in that. I grew up in the Bay Area. So we have all
yeah,
these funny,
yeah.
it's a small world, and neither one of
It
us
really is. It really is. And one other conference I want to plug is the ACFW Virginia. I was on the board for ACFW Virginia for 6 years. I was president the last 3 years. I just came off the board this year. And we do a stellar virtual conference the first weekend in November for only $35. And it's
Wow.
2 full days of workshops, keynotes. We have appointments you can get with agents, editors, and authors. We have social hour times for connection.
All
It's
virtual?
you it's
Huh.
all virtual, and it's an amazing conference. It is. And this year their keynote is going to be Kimberly Woodhouse.
Okay.
So,
Okay. I
yeah.
have been to the I was at the Blue Ridge a few years ago, and I keep saying I'm going to go back, and then time goes by so fast, and I don't make it happen. But I
Yeah.
happen to be one of those people that do not feel comfortable going into something like that all on my own. I'm like so introverted. It's terrible.
I know I'm an introvert too. So when I went in 2019, I was terrified, to be honest. Like I did not know a single solitary soul, not one soul. I was in line for dinner one night and Steve Lobby was in front of me. I had no idea who the man was. Like we just had like a normal conversation. Hey, how you doing? Are you enjoying the conference? And I'm sure after I found out later who he was and like he owns the Steve Lobby agency, I'm like, he must have thought this girl has no clue about
Well,
anything.
I met him at the, because I was going to the Mount Hermon up in the Santa Cruz Mountains in California. I went there for several years. And the
Mm-hmm.
first year I went there, my small group prayed over me because I was so terrified, and
Mm-hmm.
they roomed me with two other authors who were good buds. That and you're supposed to be like a morning person with morning people and night people with night people, and I was a morning person. And they were coming in at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I was sneaking out at 5 and trying to stay busy until it got light enough
Oh
to.
no.
It was terrible, and Steve Lobby was
Oh.
there. And funny story, when this year that I actually got a contract with the Steve Lobby agency. My husband happened to go to the conference with me, which he's never did before and he's never done since. Happened to wanted to go and see what it was like, and he saw Steve Lobby, and you know Steve Lobby, right?
Mm-hmm.
My
Yeah.
husband goes up and gives him a hug. He
Oh
has no
gosh.
idea who my husband is, and I'm like, I can't believe you just hugged Steve Lobby. He goes, what? I said, you don't hug Steve Lobby. You just don't. He just is
Yeah.
so imposing, you know. So I thought it was kind of funny, but
Yeah. I know at the Blue Ridge conference, Steve always has its lobby time in the lobby. And when I was there, being such an introvert, not knowing anybody, I was in my room and just saying, okay, you need to go out there. You need to go out there, but I don't want to. I don't want to. I don't know anybody. I'm scared and just like pacing in the room, like, what do I do? What do I do? I need to meet people. I need to, put myself out there and having to force myself out of my room to
mhm.
go down there and sit among people that I didn't know. But, stretching ourselves and doing those things that make us uncomfortable helps us grow and, to meet people. We have to meet people in this business, make those connections and do the networking.
And that's
It's
how you make friends. And I mean, I made
yeah,
lifelong
yeah.
friends. I have a friend I met there years ago at Mount Hermon. She's the one that went with me to, she's from Canada. So she came down and went with me to to the Blue Ridge because she would come in and spend a few days and we would have a vacation together and then go off. It is easier if you have somebody with you that,
Hmm.
so if you
Definitely.
ever need a roommate and you're going to go to the Blue Ridge, you let me know because I would love to have somebody
Yeah,
to hang out with and
yeah.
not be all on my own.
Are you going to go this year?
I wasn't going to because I thought about it and then the time's just gone by and I haven't made that. I guess I could still
You could
go
still go.
probably.
It's still 2 months away.
That's true. It's a ways away. So I'll have to look at that and see. I don't see why. I don't know. We'll have to. I don't see why not. It's at the end of May, right? It's over Memorial
Yep.
Weekend. So I'm gonna have to pray
Yep.
about that and maybe do that and not be so afraid of having to room by myself. I should be okay.
Well, if you go, you can room with me.
Awesome. Well, that would help me want to go. How long does it take
Well,
you to
there
drive up there? Because it's a 5 hour drive for me.
it takes me between 6.5 to 7 hours.
Wow, it's a long drive, huh? Yeah,
Yeah, but doable.
it
It's
is
doable.
doable. Yeah, it is I have no problem driving that far when I go down to Orange Beach and hang out on the Gold Coast. So I guess
Yeah.
I should be able to be fine doing it going to a conference. I'll look into that, Dina. I will get back with you on that. So we may be
Okay.
together this year.
Sounds
Hey,
good.
so tell us about your book. That's what we're here to talk about. And we're almost out of time.
Yeah.
Tell us about this. It's called Stronger Than the Storm.
Yeah. So this book was one that I wrote the first part during NaNoWriMo in 2019. So my first one was 2018, which is, by the way, set in Chattanooga. So
Oh, really?
hopefully,
Okay.
yeah, hopefully it will come out one day in the future. But this one I wrote the first draft in 2019. And then I put it aside for a while to go work on the other book. And then I came back to this one when the first one didn't go anywhere with the agent and publishers. And so I polished this one up. And this one, when it was time to go out and pitch myself, I felt like that God was saying this is the one that needs to be your debut, not the other one that I was really trying to go for. This one is more personal to me because it was based on our personal experience as a ministry couple who had a prodigal child. 20 years ago, actually, this year. We went through that very difficult season. And so I think this book, for my heart is to be an encouragement to parents or families who are struggling with a prodigal, or even in marriage, because Beth and Kevin, the two the couple in the book, their marriage really struggles when they go through this with their daughter, because we have different personalities and we go about things in a different way. One of us may be more laid back, the other one's more stringent with the rules, and so you kind of butt heads, and that can cause conflict in your marriage. And so a lot of this book came from my personal emotions and experience as a mom in ministry, and with a daughter that we struggled with. But it is fictional. I did put some true things in there. Several of the things in there really happened. But for the bulk of it, it is a fictional story. But I just really hope it encourages people that there's always hope.
Right.
That this season, although it's excruciating and sometimes you think you're not going to survive it, you don't know how you're going to survive it, with God and just hanging on to God, He will get you through.
Absolutely.
And I learned so much through that season about myself, about how shallow my faith really was at that time when I thought I was a really strong Christian. I mean, my husband's a pastor. I was in ministry, leading other people, counseling people, but I learned a lot about myself and my faith, that I was expecting God to answer my prayers the way I prayed them because I was so faithful.
Right.
I served Him well. I did this, I did that, all the things.
On
But
works,
then,
the works
right.
that
And
we
then
did.
this is the thanks I get, you
Right.
know?
Yeah.
So it's a learning process that Beth, the character, has to go through as well. That being vulnerable and transparent about who you really are and your struggles is more important than worrying about what people think about you
Right.
and your reputation. You can't help people through their struggles and their hard times if you keep yours buried and hidden. You have to be honest.
Right. I mean, I think that's a hard lesson to learn as Christians, being open and vulnerable and transparent, because I think we all tend to hide the darker, harder things about our lives. And it's
Mm-hmm.
only when we can, and I feel, and I said this, I just watched that blog that we did, and I feel like this is just so true, is God allows these things for us to grow and to test our faith a little bit, and to,
Mm-hmm.
and and when we can anchor to Him and trust Him in it, He will
Mm-hmm.
always redeem it. One way
Yes.
or another, it will be redeemed. I really
Yeah.
truly believe that.
When we surrender, we have to surrender it to Him, and I think, Beth in the story has to do that. In the story, she has a secret, a 19-year secret that she's kept from everyone. And finally, God confronts her with that, and she has to come clean in obedience to God and tell this secret that shatters her family, that could like ruin her for life, her ministry, her family. But in obedience to God, she's got to do this. And
And
it's
is it a pastor's family in your story?
yes.
So it really reminds me of my book Illusions that I did. It was the same idea. It was a pastor's
Mm,
family, and not the same exact same, but the dark secret that could break apart everything. And
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Well, there's nothing new under the sun.
no,
And there's a lot of novels out there that have very similar themes and similar storylines, but each author tells it in their own unique
right.
voice and has their own way of bringing that across.
Well, we
So
tend,
yeah, it's really.
I think it's not unusual for a pastor's family to struggle in that particular way, and that's where I think that bigger secrets come into play, because
Mm-hmm.
it's a it's a bigger fall, as
Yeah.
you
Well,
know, the
yeah,
fall
because
would be
you live in a
harder.
glass house.
Exactly. And that's what, when I did mine, I had actually spoken to my pastor that I had, because before we came along, he had a 17-year-old son who got his 15-year-old girlfriend pregnant. And the stuff that he had to put up with, and the way the church treated him for this,
Mm-hmm.
like he couldn't control his child, Nobody can
Hmm.
control it. You can't control the children. So
Yeah.
that's what inspired that was the idea that that kind of thing can happen and they're put in a glass bowl. Everybody's
Yeah.
watching.
Yeah. Because there's so many things that we went through during our season with our daughter that if that had happened in any other family, nobody else in the church would really even know about it. But
Or judge it.
when your husband's the pastor, it's all out there,
Right.
you know.
Yeah, you're held to a higher accountability. But the problem is it's like you're not allowed to sin
Hmm.
or make mistakes or have a family that's flawed in any way.
Yeah.
And
Well,
that's
we
harder.
are very blessed with our church, and I think one because we were a church plant. So we didn't have a lot of people who had been in the church forever and were sometimes when you grow up in the church and you get in the traditionalism and all, it can be a little more judgmental with things.
Yeah.
But with the new church plant, we had a lot of new believers that, accepted the Lord through our ministry. And so they didn't know to be judgmental, or whatever. So they were very gracious and kind. And I really wanted to portray that in the book too, because a lot
Yeah.
of times churches get a bad rap. And, people, especially these days, a lot of people are leaving the church and never going back, all the church hurt and all the things you hear about that go on. And it's a real thing. And I
It
certainly
is.
know it's out there, but there are also beautiful churches with congregations who are loving and kind and compassionate. And that's another thing I wanted to portray in my book is that not every church is going to bash you and bash the
Right.
pastor for things. They love you and walk with you through it.
Well, the church is filled with people, and people are flawed. So you can't judge an entire church on a few people who might be doing the bashing. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? I think,
exactly.
I
And
think,
and God didn't do that to you. It's people who hurt you, not
right,
God. So
exactly.
people walk away from the church or from God because of it. Well, God didn't do that. Don't
Absolutely.
walk away from him.
Absolutely. 100% agree with you. Well, Deena, it's been a real pleasure talking to you. I'm excited about this. I will make sure that all of your information and the link to your book, and I do know it's up for pre-order. Is that a special price or is the pre-order price the price of the
Uh, the pre-order is for ebook only, not the paperback, and it's $1 off
Okay.
the regular price. So the ebook is actually going to come out April 27th and
Okay.
the paperback on April 28th. So April 26th would be the deadline for getting that dollar off the ebook.
So we're going to plug this because this is going to be coming, I think it's the 23rd that we'll be
Hmm.
publishing this. So I'll make sure um, I'll make that clear.
Yeah, sounds good.
Awesome.
Well,
Thank you so
thanks
much.
so much. And if people want to follow along, they can go to DeenaAdams.com
And
and find
that'll
all the
also
info there. All my links, social media, and everything is
that'll
there.
also be in the show notes. I will put all that in there so people can link directly into you and a
All right.
direct link into your book, a direct link into everything.
Sounds great. Thank you, Jennifer.
You're welcome. Nice to talk with you, and hopefully you get the next book done and we'll do this again.
All right. Sounds good.
Bye.
Bye.